वो लगा देंगे, मृदंग बजा लो थोड़ा। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, जय राधा जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन। जमुना तीरा वनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, जय राधा माधव। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। जय कृष्ण बलराम कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम। Jai Nitai Gauranga Jaya Nitai Gauranga Nitai Gauranga Jaya Nitai Gauranga Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Bhagavad Gita Yatharup ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita Yatharup, chapter. So we are starting the new chapter today, chapter 4, entitled as Transcendental Knowledge, and text number 1, the first verse of the new chapter. Shri Bhagavana Vacha Imam Vivasvate Yogam Proktavanham Avyayam Vivashvan Manave Praha Manorikshvakave Bravit. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Imam Vivashvate Yogam Proktavanham Avyayam Vivasvan Manave Praha Manorikshvakave Bravit. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Imam Vivashvate Yogam Proktavanham Avyayam Vivasvan Manave Praha Manorikshvakave Bravit. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Translation. The Blessed Lord said, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god Vivaswan, and Vivaswan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind, and Manu in turn instructed it to Ikshvaku. So please repeat the translation after me. The Blessed Lord said, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god Vivaswan, and Vivaswan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind, and Manu in turn instructed it to Ikshvaku. Okay, so we'll not be reading the whole purport. We'll take some points from the purport and discuss one by one. So before we start discussing on this verse, let us see the background of this. Why this verse is spoken and how this chapter is beginning here. So anybody remembers what was the last section of on the previous chapter, on the third chapter? What was the discussion about? Sorry? Karma Yoga was the name of the chapter, but the last section of the Karma Yoga chapter, it talks about something very specific. Controlling the senses. Yes, that is correct. To be more specific, sorry? Say loud. Okay, so the last section of third chapter was talking about how to control the lust, how to conquer the lust. So starting from 3.36 to 43, that is the last section, wherein Krishna explains that lust is all devouring enemy. So Arjuna asked that what is that? Sometime it's a kind of a force which forces us to do something which is undesirable. So then Krishna points out it is lust. Kam esh, krodh esh, rajoguna samudbhava, mahashano mahapapma vidhi enam yavarinam. So he says this lust is the all-devouring enemy. It's an enemy. And then Krishna suggests how to conquer this lust because it's an enemy. So that section talks about that. And then finally Krishna says that one should conquer the lust by the deliberate intelligence. So there is something related to intelligence and knowledge being discussed towards the end of the third chapter. So what is this intelligence? What is this knowledge? From where you get this knowledge? So now this fourth chapter, the name of this fourth chapter is called Transcendental Knowledge, Divya Gyan. So Krishna said you can control the lust by the knowledge, and this is that knowledge. Fourth chapter, Transcendental Knowledge. And this knowledge, so this verse, today's verse is saying, Krishna is speaking, Shri Bhagavana Vacha, Imam Vivashvate Yogam Proktavan Aham Avyayam. This knowledge I personally spoke to Vivaswan. Who is this Vivaswan? The sun god. The name of sun god is Vivaswan. And he says, then Vivaswan Manve Praha. In turn, Vivaswan spoke this knowledge to Manu, the father of mankind, Manu. Right? The word man comes from Manu. Or in Hindi, we call it Manushya. So it comes from the Manu. So he's the father of mankind. So Vivaswan in turn spoke to Manu, and Manu Ikshvaka ve Abravit. Manu in turn spoke to King Ikshvaku. So this King Ikshvaku is the king in whose dynasty later Lord Ramchandra comes. So what all these names are mentioned here, they're all ruling king, Kshatriyas. So this knowledge was imparted. Which knowledge? Which helps to conquer the lust, to curb the lust. And this knowledge is called the transcendental knowledge, not ordinary knowledge, not mundane knowledge. And this knowledge was imparted to the kings, the rulers, the administrators. And there is a reason. So let us now see one by one some points from the purport. Okay, so Prabhupada says, in this chapter, Krishna presents transcendental knowledge by which one can be protected from the bondage of lust. Krishna describes how he personally gave this spiritual knowledge to great kings who are meant to impart it to the citizens by education, culture, and devotion, and thus help them utilize the opportunity of the human form of life. So there is a reason why this knowledge was imparted to the kings only. So now somebody can raise the question, because nowadays in this modern age, people are very expert in, creating some controversy out of nothing. They can create the controversy. Oh, in the Bhagavad Gita there is a discrimination. They're giving the knowledge to only some rich people, only to the kings. So maybe they're discriminating between poor and the rich, like that. But it is not the discrimination, it's a precision. And there is a reason. Because the kings, the rulers, they are actually powerful people. They're influential people. So if they receive this knowledge, they understand, they practice, then using their influence, they can teach others. They can spread this knowledge for the common mass. And since they are powerful, so they can use their power. They can influence the common mass to strictly implement this knowledge in their rule. So that is the reason. So it's not a discrimination, but there is a reason that why those classes are chosen to receive this knowledge. And thus, this principle has been always seen in the history. If you see the history, when Lord Buddha came, so he has been practicing But the Buddhism became very famous only when it was accepted by King Ashoka. Before that, not many people practiced or knew about Buddhism. But then King Ashoka, who was the ruling king at the time, he adopted this knowledge and then it becomes very prominent at the time. The same happens in the Christianity also. So Christianity has always been there, but when it was accepted by the Roman Empire, it becomes world famous, right? So this has been the history. These ruling kings, they have the power to share and spread this knowledge, which is basically meant for everyone, but everyone doesn't have the easy access. So it's the king's duty to spread this knowledge. That is why the kings are chosen. In fact, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, so of course Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is called as Mahavadanya Avatara, the most merciful, and there is no discrimination. So the Acharya says it is the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy is meant for everyone. And the examples are Jagai and Madai, the most wretched people, but they also receive the mercy. But still you will see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his conversation with some very prominent people at that time. One was the king himself, the King Prataparudra. He became the follower of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then in the Chaitanya Charitamrita you will find the conversation with Ramananda Rai, who was the governor at that time. And then there is another conversation you will find Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who was a great philosopher at that time, and he was having like thousands of followers. There is another impersonalist philosopher, his name was Prakashananda Saraswati. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has had very exclusive conversation with these people. But it doesn't mean that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not care about the common mass. He delivered even the dogs in the street. The Jagai and Madai is the example, the most wretched people. So this is not the discrimination, it's the precision. And then it is the duty of these kings. That king has to take the responsibility. And in fact, when Srila Prabhupada, he came here to preach in this country, so Prabhupada started it other way around. So ideally it should be started from the top and then you go down and give knowledge to everyone. But Prabhupada started this movement with the help of hippies. They are considered socially the lowest rung in the society. They're all like homeless people kind of category. But Prabhupada started sharing this knowledge with them. So there is no discrimination in sharing the knowledge. But later, when the movement grew and Prabhupada relatively became more busy, he was not having the time to spend with each and everyone. Then he became a little selective. So at that time, this Allen Ginsberg, who was a very famous person at that time, like some of those people, if you can go and check, like George Harrison, this Allen Ginsberg, they're kind of stars, very popular personalities at the time in America. So this Allen Ginsberg, he is actually a promoter of drug. His philosophy is like that. And he was a very controversial person. But at the same time, he was a leader. He was a very influential person. So the first print of Bhagwat Gita by Prabhupada, the first edition, by Macmillan edition, there is a foreword by this Allen Ginsberg, because he is an influential person. But in the second edition, because already Bhagavad Gita became very famous, the Hare Krishna became very famous, and the second edition was printed by the ISKCON press. So that time Prabhupada said, now there's no need to use his foreword. So the point is, whatever is needed to share this knowledge should be adopted. So especially these leaders, they can play a very significant role. So in fact, in the second verse, Krishna will talk about Raj Rishis. So there is a term used in the Bhagavad Gita, Raj Rishis. So the Raj means Raja, the king, the leaders. So there's something called the saintly king. They are Rishis also. Generally we find this Raja and Rishi two opposite end of the tunnel. Raja is like always fully into all kinds of materialistic thing, and Rishi is like completely cut from all those material sense gratification. But there is another term which is Rajarishis. They are the kings on the throne, but inside the house they are like the rishis. Their character is like rishis. So those people are chosen. So here, this leader, this king, is Bivashwan. So first time this knowledge was spoken to this sun god Bivaswan. So this has been always the history, and this Brahmana class and the administrative class, Kshatriya class, they have to come together, join hands to share the knowledge. Like the Brahmana has the knowledge, but the Kshatriya has the power. So Brahmana may not have the power to spread the knowledge, but they can impart the knowledge. So this is how this sun god was imparted this knowledge. Okay. So let us just quickly look into the history of the Bhagavad Gita. When it happened, when Krishna spoke this knowledge to sun god. Okay, so we'll go in the history. So what Krishna is saying here is, I spoke this knowledge to sun god. Now we know the sun god. Prabhupada explains, actually he quotes from the Brahma Samhita, Yat chakshur esha savita sakala grahanam raja samasta surmurthir ashesha tejaha. So this sun god, among all the demigods, is the topmost. He is the king and is very, very powerful. So sun god is the one who gives light to everyone. Also other planets, so many other planets, the heavenly planets, without the mercy of sun god they cannot sustain. So the sun god gives light to everyone, but Krishna gives light to sun god. Light means knowledge. So sun god also receives his own light in the form of knowledge from Krishna. So when he received this, so if you read the purport, Prabhupada quotes various references. So one of the reference Prabhupada quotes from the Mahabharata, Shanti Parv. So here it is explained, in the beginning of the Treta Yuga, this science of the relationship with the Supreme was delivered by Vivaswan to Manu. Manu, being the father of mankind, gave it to the son, Maharaj Ikshvaku, the king of this earth planet, and forefather of the Raghu dynasty, in which Lord Ramchandra appeared. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita existed in the human society from the time of Maharaj Ikshvaku. So this is one quotation. Now let us go in terms of numbers of years when it was spoken. So there's a whole calculation is given, but I'll just give the numbers. So he says, some 20 million years ago, Manu spoke the Bhagavad Gita to his disciple and the son Maharaj Ikshvaku, the king of the planet. So we can calculate this like, this is Kali Yuga. So Kali Yuga lasts for 432,000 years. That is the age of Kali Yuga, time duration for Kali Yuga. Prior to this was Dwapar Yuga, which is close to, Treta Yuga. If we go to Treta Yuga, which is close to 12 lakh years, and then Dwapar Yuga, 8 lakh years. So now Kali Yuga has just begun, 5,000 years only happened. So before that, 8 lakh years of Dwapar Yuga and 12 lakh years of Treta Yuga. So it becomes like 20 lakh years. So it is 2 million years actually, not 20 million, sorry. So 2 million years ago, it was spoken to Ikshvaku. But that was not the first time. Before Ikshvaku, it was spoken to Manu, and before that, Vivaswan. So if we calculate the life estimate of the Manu, then it comes to almost like, so Prabhupada writes, a rough estimate is that the Gita was spoken at least 120 million years ago in human society. It has been extant for 2 million ago. So 2 million years ago, it came in the human society through Maharaj Ikshvaku. But originally it was spoken 120 million years ago. And then 5,000 years ago, it was re-spoken to Arjuna. So that is the history of Bhagavad Gita. So that is why this knowledge is called the timeless wisdom. This is not some mundane knowledge. So Prabhupada writes toward the end of the purport, because Bhagavad Gita is as good as the Vedas, being spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this knowledge is aparushaya, superhuman. So this is not some ordinary knowledge. This is timeless wisdom. What the meaning of timeless wisdom? this knowledge doesn't need any kind of updation with the time. Like you see everything in this world, all the knowledge they keep updating, right? But this Bhagavad Gita was spoken 120 million years ago and it doesn't need any updation. So that is timeless wisdom. And that is why this knowledge is called aparushaya. So aparushaya means this knowledge is not delivered by some mundane people. It is directly spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna himself. So what is the difference if it is spoken by some ordinary person of this world versus spoken by the Supreme Lord Krishna? What is the difference? Anybody can speak? Any idea, any clue? So the person of this material world cannot be authentic? Why? Why speculation? It's limited. Speculation, assumptions. Okay, so all the answers are correct. So actually Shastra points out there are 4 defects in the people of this material world, which includes all of us. So many of us might not know. We think we are all perfect. We are all smart and intelligent. Let us see from the Shastras. 4 defects are we all commit mistakes. Is there someone here who never commits mistake or who never committed mistake or who will never commit mistake? There might be some people, I don't know. We all commit mistake. That is one. And then we are all prone to be illusioned. We get illusioned. Right? Our sense perception is very limited and it is very relative. Like I can see you all here. Suddenly the light goes off, it becomes dark, then probably I can't see you. Then I can be in illusion. I don't know who is who. So this is the limitations of our senses. Then this is called the imperfect senses. So in fact our science also proved that our visible range, eyes, that Bibgyor they give, within that range only you can see. There's certain hertz and that sound only some decibels, certain range is there, you can hear that sound only. Right? We can see limitedly. Light goes off, I can see. Distance, how far we can see? 10 meters? 2 meters? What is the range we can see? Yes. You're saying something, I can't hear you. This is the limit. So we can say, okay, my visible range is 2 meter, which is correct, right? But actually it is not correct also. So I can see 2 meters somebody sitting here, but you just put a curtain here, I can see. So it is very relative. So everything is limited here. So with all these limited and imperfect senses, nobody can deliver the perfect knowledge, the absolute knowledge. That is how this knowledge is delivered by the Supreme Lord, Krishna. And that is why this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, it is called as aparushaya. So this is the reason we should receive this knowledge from the right source, spoken by Krishna, and then Krishna has authorized the people to deliver this knowledge further. So this is called parampara system. Guru Sishya disciplic succession, Guru Sishya parampara, which Krishna will be discussing in the next verse. So the point is, if we don't receive this knowledge in the parampara, then there is always a scope of mundane interpretation. Like the message of the knowledge is something else, but the person can say something else. And you can completely misunderstand the knowledge, the message. Like I remember once back in India, there's one very famous group. So they are into all this Bhagwat Gita recitation. So every year on the Gita Jayanti day, so they train a lot of school kids throughout the year. And on the Gita Jayanti day, everybody assembles in a big hall. And they recite all 700 verses in one go. And most of the kids, they just by heart, they don't see the text or something. They practice and they can do that. So one of our devotee from our temple, he was invited as one of the guests. So when he was listening, so it was towards the end of Bhagavad Gita. And they were very nicely reciting everything. And when it comes to the most famous verse, Sarv Dharman Paritajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. So the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita. So this devotee noticed, he heard that these kids, they chanted, Sarv Adharman Paritajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. So he was taken aback. And later after that, he spoke to one of the leaders there. He says, the Bhagavad Gita says, Sarv Dharman Paritajya. But I heard that these kids recited Sarv Adharman Paritajya. So then this person, he has his own explanation to do that change. He was saying, how is it possible that Krishna will say Dharman Paritajya? Why somebody should give up the Dharma? So it is some typing mistake or some mistake. So we corrected it to Sarv Adharman Paritajya. So one should give up all kinds of adharma. It sounds very appealing, right? How many of you say it is right? It may sound very right. No, it makes sense. It is logical. And why somebody should give up the dharma? One should give up adharma. But that is why we should listen this knowledge through the right succession, from the right Guru Sishya Parampara. Then we understand what is the real meaning, the real import of that word, Sarv Dharman Paritajya. So like that. So, okay, so we had to close today a little early. There is some Sunday school midterm presentation. So we'll close with this. So this verse explain the history of Bhagavad Gita. You can read the nice purport given by Prabhupada. And then further it explain about the Guru Sishya Parampara. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. So anybody who is coming first time, anybody who is newcomer, first time you're coming, we have a special gift for you. So please collect your special gift from the counter here. Our volunteers will help you. And I will be having this presentation by various age group kids from the Sunday school. So let us watch and encourage all the kids. Hare Krishna.